Me? Obsessed with you? Yes. Yes, I am.
Cause I'm all about him, and he's all about me. And we don't give a dang about nobody.
Yes, hello. Before anything else, so let's go watch the procedure and safety protocols for the pre-opening team.
Fincantieri's commitment to employee safety is a constant factor that has always guided the company's action, in its belief that the culture of prevention is an essential element of any production entity. Guaranteeing high levels of workplace safety, as well as the health of its resources, is a fundamental objective for Fincantieri. Its achievement requires the constant commitment of all concerned. Every part involved in the production process, in every factory, must act in a responsible fashion to eliminate or reduce risks to the minimum level. Safety is an absolute right and a common objective.
Grazie al contributo di tutti miglioriamo le condizioni di sicurezza. Tieniti informato, il tuo impegno è fondamentale.
With everyone's involvement, we can improve safety condition. Stay informed. Your commitment is vital.
সকলের প্রচেষ্টায় আমরা জীবনের নিরাপত্তা নিশ্চিত করতে পারব। আমরা অবগত থাকতে হবে, আমাদের সকলের অবদান গুরুত্বপূর্ণ।
Decree number 81 of 2008 and successive amendments have introduced important changes to guarantee improved safety conditions in corporate organizational processes. Of particular note are the precise definition of subjects and responsibility, the new rules for registration, the specific regulation concerning the organizational and management model pursuant to Legislative Decree 231 of 2001, and the introduction of more severe sanctions. The Consolidation Act establishes the criteria to be adopted to maintain workplace and individual health and safety for each of the figures involved in safety management, in a precise system of tasks and responsibilities. The subjects that participate in various ways in the protection of company safety are the employer, the managers, the supervisors, the Prevention and Protection Service and the relative manager, the company doctor, employee safety representatives, and the employees themselves. The employer must adopt general protection measures. But at the same time, it is important that each employee accepts responsibility for his or her own health and those of other people at the workplace that are affected by his or her actions or non-actions. The legislation sets out precise obligations for the employer and the employee who must act pursuant to instructions received and using the means supplied by the employer. The Legislative Decree number 272 of the 27th of July 1999 was issued with the specific aim of bringing the norm for workplace health and safety in line with the special requirements of the operations and services undertaken in ports. Its fields of application include maintenance, repair, and transformation of the ships in ports. The decree expressly identifies the content of the safety document and highlights other employer obligations. In addition to the figures identified under Legislative Decree number 81 of 2008, the Legislative Decree number 272 of 1999 identifies a further organ for the protection of safety in the Hygiene and Security Committees, Article 7, that can be instructed by the Port Authority. The relationship between the general norm, Legislative Decree number 81, and the special norm, Legislative Decree number 272, determine that the prescriptions of the Legislative Decree are not applicable to the port sector with the exception of aspects expressly governed under 272. A job done safely is a job well done. We therefore always apply this maxim: think before you act. Each of us is an active part of safety. Cleanliness and order at the workplace are fundamental elements for the safety of all. It will update the DUVRI, single document on the assessment of risk from interference, that helps manage potential interference risks. The Fincantieri coordinator will then assign the work area to the site manager of the external company and complete the relevant report that must be signed by the site manager and the Fincantieri coordinator. Visitors cannot enter the Fincantieri factories if these are not provided. Before entering the factories, the employees of external companies must attend the informative video course organised by Fincantieri on safety and the environment. Before entering the site, the visitor must put on the basic PPE, personal protective equipment. Wearing work clothes with the logo of the relevant company. Once the course is completed, Fincantieri will give a badge to the employee that permits access to the factory,
and that must be visible on work clothes for the length of stay.
To orientate yourself in the factory, you should be aware of the most relevant points of interest and viability both on foot and using other means. Here are the main points of interest of the Ancona factory. Reception. Prevention and Protection Service. Infirmary. Canteen. Changing rooms. Refreshments areas. Fire Protection Vigilance Service. Corporate area. Now let us have a look at the layout of the factory with indication of the production centres. Finally, the viability of the factory on foot and by other means. factory is OHSAS 18001 and ISO 14001 certified. This means that the management of safety and polluting discharges. You should signal any emergency or serious danger quickly. This permits rapid intervention with greater efficiency. What should you do in case of an emergency? You should immediately communicate the situation by calling the emergency numbers presented in the video. In addition, you can also use, if present, the emergency communication devices that are an important provisional emergency system. It is important to know what information you should communicate when you signal an emergency. The information is different in the case of accident or illness or other types of emergency. In the case of accident or illness, you should communicate the name of the caller, the place of the event, the nature of the event, the condition of the people involved in the emergency.
Avanti pompieri! Il mio collega è caduto, è cosciente, siamo in zona Z3 Ponte 1. Ok, te lo mando subito. Grazie.
A correct communication is fundamental for a timely and effective intervention of the emergency team. In the case of other types of emergency, the information to be communicated is the name of the caller, the place of the event, the nature of the event, people involved in the emergency. There are cases in which the emergency is so dangerous as to require the evacuation of personnel from offices, workshops, ships, or, in the most severe cases, from the whole factory. In the case of evacuation from office or workshops, the communication will occur via sound or visual signalling from a specially designated junction box. If there are no junction boxes, the communication will come from emergency staff via megaphone. In the case of abandonment of a ship under construction or being outfitted, the communication will take place via sound or visual signalling from the junction boxes of the provisional system. In this case, the evacuation signal consists of 7 short whistles and 1 long whistle, or 3 consecutive on and offs of the lighting system. Exit will take place via the specially designated mobile gangways. If it is necessary to abandon the entire factory, the signalling will be a long siren whistle. Remember, in this case, there are precise instructions as to how to abandon the workplace in case of emergency. All personnel must reach the agreed meeting points following the designated escape routes and trying to maintain calm.
Once they have reached the meeting point, the managers will count those present and communicate the number of those missing to the emergency staff.
The safety sign aims to offer employees all information about the nature of danger within the site. The security sign can be of 5 types: prohibition signs, warning signs, limitation signs, rescuing signs, fire prevention equipment signs. The prohibition signs indicate that certain actions cannot be executed within the factory. They are round in shape with a red border and with a black object on a white background. The warning signs show the need for special attention, caution, or checking when executing certain actions. They are triangular with a black border and with a black object on a yellow background. The limitation signs are used when you must undertake a specific action or behave in a certain manner. They are round in shape with a white object on a blue background. The rescue signs are used to show routes, exits, useful places in the case of assistance or rescue. They can be square or rectangular in shape with a white object on a green background. The signs for fire prevention equipment are used to indicate various objects, such as extinguisher and telephone, and to give indications as to their location. They are square or rectangular in shape and have a white object on a red background. During the building of a ship, there is a risk that the conditions for ignition, spreading, and propagation of a fire can develop. The possible causes of a fire can derive from working with flames, the material used during construction of a ship, or from the systems, particularly the electrical system. Whilst working with flames, soldering, welding, cutting, grinding or straightening, a fire may start if there are inflammable materials present. The material causes of a fire can be solids, liquids and gases. For example, packaging, boxes, plastics, inflammable liquids, furnishing material and inflammable gases are considered potential sources for the development and propagation of a fire. Another source of risk are the electrical systems, such as transformers, circuit breakers, switchboards and sockets. It is important to adopt prevention measures to reduce the risk of fire in the workplace, and in particular on board ships under construction or being refurnished. Lack of prevention can create non-controllable situations with potential disastrous consequences for the safety of people and objects. In this context, we have defined behavioral regulations that must be followed during the execution of work on site. You must not place, even temporarily, inflammable liquids such as paints, solvent and glues in unsafe positions or those not indicated by a special sign. You must not place gas or fuel canisters on the side of ships under construction. You must not board inflammable materials in quantities that are superior to daily requirements. you must unload as soon as possible, or in any case by the end of the working shift, all packaging for loaded materials. Every company must keep their working area clean, eliminating all residue and depositing it in the special containers. You must not use inflammable materials for the protection of equipment and furnishings. You must not place inflammable materials inside lockers. You must not smoke on board ship apart from in the designated smoking areas. Other prevention measures concern the correct position of the oxygen hoses and the acetylene or methane torches. These must be connected to the closest control panel. In addition, they must be left hanging or placed so as to avoid damage and stored separately from electrical cables. Finally, joints between the fire hoses are not The company promotes the reduction of consumption, particularly electricity and water. The worker, at the end of the shift and before each break, must ensure, except in particular cases, that all machinery, systems and equipment are turned off. For the protection of water resources, you should limit consumption and wastage, turning off the water at the end of each procedure. The dangerous substances must be deposited in the designated areas and placed on drip pans or equivalent container devices to prevent leakage. If damage to containers, the loss or breakage of vehicles or machinery occurs, with subsequent spillage, all work must be interrupted to prevent contamination of the earth. Machinery must be switched off. An intervention carried out with the special containment kit. The Fincantieri supervisor should be advised, and where necessary, the emergency procedures should be activated. If you are undertaking work that involves the production of atmospheric emissions, such as soldering, you must ensure that the aspiration of fumes is effective and only use aspiration systems especially designed for specific procedures. To reduce and contain noise during work, you must plan in advance where to position noisy systems, machinery and equipment, as well as their ignition, and ensure that soundproofing protection and workshop doors are closed. Prolonged noisy procedures must also take into account noise emissions to the outside of the factory. The contracting company must ensure that the working area is clean, periodically removing all waste and packaging, collecting it separately, depending on its nature and type, in the special containers available in the factory. Condensation caused by compression systems or air drying must also be collected and managed as waste. Remember that mixing of waste is prohibited. The company that deals with the collection and removal of residual or dangerous materials must hold specific authorizations in conformity with current legislation. Remember that the abandonment and the deposit of waste in the form of a stack or uncontrolled mass is prohibited, as is disposal in the sea, in the sewerage system, or in the earth of any product or material. Cleaning of the work area must only be done with dry systems. Water or damp systems must never be used, as these can cause the transfer of contaminants in the rainwater system. Fincantieri considers the promotion of health to be a real investment, to improve the quality of life of all workers that operate in its factories. The main objectives are combating smoking, promoting healthy eating, combating a sedentary lifestyle and hypertension, combating stress. In the working environment, the likelihood of serious accidents is 4 times higher in people who have consumed alcohol. Depending on the quantity consumed, alcohol can cause excitement and mental confusion, loss of control, of reflexes, of inhibitions, and reduction in the capacity to assess danger, tremors, vomiting, malfunctioning of the liver and lungs, alteration of cardiac frequency and vasodilation of veins and arteries, coma, collapse, death from respiratory arrest. To protect the health and safety of all, consumption of alcohol is completely prohibited within Fincantieri factories. Drugs are substances that create addiction. Depending on the substance, drugs can cause sedative effects, disturbance to sensory perception, hallucinations to the point of psychosis, serious cognitive deficits, including reduced learning capacity, memory loss and loss of judgment, with undervaluation of dangerous situations and risk to the health of the individual and others, anxiety, irritability, increase in blood pressure and heart rate, and cardiovascular problems, death due to acute intoxication of the organism, or, in a direct manner, through accidents caused by lack of attention or modification in the perception of reality. The use of drugs is prohibited under the law and, consequently, is prohibited within Fincantieri factories. Remember that accidents directly caused by the abuse of alcohol and drugs, not used for therapeutic purposes, will lead to annulment of INAIL, national insurance payouts.
That's all that you have to remember every time you are in the field. So be safe and follow the protocols. It's for your own good. And the next day after watching this video, we started our first day. So yun, when we get there in our ship, our general manager and our executive housekeeper brief on us on what our accomplishment for today. So while we are waiting for our socks, we are in the back office waiting.
Hello guys, this is our first day
And we are so busy. And then after waiting for about like a half of a day for our stocks, they announced that the stock will be late arriving in our ship. So our executive decides to have us some lunch, and then we'll go back to our ship to rest, and we will start our task tomorrow. So yan, let's go. So ayan, end of the ship today. What happened? Nothing. Ang ganda ng first day. Pumasok lang, tapos umuwi na. And go back. TikTok. TikTok. Hello, Viking SATURN. Saan ng lunchtime? Going up?
Kakain na naman kami, lintik, hagda na naman.
We're heading to the bar.
Maghihirap ka muna bago ka kumain.
So now it's lunchtime. So we pack our lunch. We have fried rice for today and chicken. So yun, pagkatapos namin mag-lunch, nag-out na kami. Tapos yun, lakad-lakad. Punta kami sa church. Saang church yun? Punta kami sa Katedral San Ciriaco. Yun yung pagkababang inakyat. Inakyat pa. Kasi umuulan pa. Pero worth it naman.
Buong kontrata hagdan.
Uy! Meron pang paakyat.
Iwan mo na ako rito. Iwan mo na ako dito, ha?
Pag di ka nakakyat sa hagdan, doon ka na matulog.
This time in Ancona is very beautiful. Ang ganda ng view talaga. Oh. Yan. Pero yung mga puno, walang ano, no? Walang daon. Ito, si Big Time.
Big time ka dyan.
Parang pinamahan ko sa kontrata kasama hagdan. Bagay, sa dami ng hagdan ngayon eh. Araw-araw puro hagdan. Diyos ko, kung hindi pa akyat, hagdan. Araw-araw hagdan. Mayat-maya hagdan. Diyos ko po. Nakakait ng ulo. Ang lintik, paakyat na yan. Tangina, naginit ang ulo ko rin. Paakyat na yan, ah. Puro na lang hagdan tong araw na to. Leche.
Ano? Yes! We made it! Ang ganda oh. Dito oh. Harap na to. And yes, finally we reached the top of the world. Charot. And that's all for today's video. So thank you for watching, guys. See you again.